Namaste and welcome to the Nirvega Vidya channel. In this video, we shall look at the Dhyana-Bindu Upanishad. Now, the first topic we'll be looking at is the importance of Dhyana Yoga. Now, as the name suggests, Dhyana-Bindu Upanishad, it deals a lot with meditation as such. Dhyana Yoga is extolled in the Dhyana-Bindu Upanishad as the sole means to destroy accumulated sins. Pranava Dhyana in particular is given emphasis in the Upanishad as the cause of Brahma Jnana, the knowledge of Brahman, and consequently Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti is liberation attained while one is still living. So Pranava Dhyana is given emphasis in this Upanishad. Now the next topic is about the nature of Pranava, Omkara. Pranava is said to be the supreme Bijakshara. Now Bijaksharas are syllables which are considered to be like packets of energy, yam, vam, lam. There are certain Bijaksharas and these are considered to be very potent syllables. Now Omkara is Om. The Om is said to be the supreme Bijakshara, the most potent of them all. Om is said to have 8 parts. Now, the Upanishad does not mention what these 8 parts are, nor does it mention what the 4 limbs are, or the 3 seats, or the 5 deities. The only thing that the Upanishad says is that Om has 8 parts, 4 limbs, 3 seats, and 5 deities. It does not mention what they are. I was referring to a commentary, and what I found there, I'm presenting here. The 8 parts of the Omkara are Akara, Ukara, Makara, obviously. Nada, Bindu, Kala, not Kala, Kala, Kalatita, and Tatpara. So these are the 8 parts of Omkara. The 4 limbs of Omkara are the 4 states of consciousness that we find in the Mandukya Upanishad, Vishva, Taijasa, Prajna, and Turiya. The 3 seats are the instead of saying 4 states of consciousness, I think it's better to say the 4 padas of the Atman, Vishva, Taijasa, Prajna, and Turiya. The 3 seats are the 3 states of consciousness, technically. The 3 seats could mean the 3 states of consciousness, which are Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti. They could refer to the 3 bodies, which are the Sthula, Sukshma, and Karana Sharira. They could refer to the 3 qualities, the 3 gunas, Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. Or they could refer to the 3 powers, Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Or they could refer to the 3 durations, the 3 kinds of time, the past, present, and the future. So it could refer to any of these 3. And because the Upanishad does not mention what these 3 seats are, we are open to interpretations. And the 5 deities, who are Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Ishvara, and Sadashiva. So these are the different parts, limbs of Omkara. The nature of Pranava. The Upanishad describes the 3 syllables of Omkara and what they represent. Akara, which is the first part of the Pranava, represents earth, fire, Rigveda, Bhuloka, and Brahma. It is yellow in color and unrhythmic in quality. Unrhythmic here refers to the quality of Rajas. Ukara, which is the second part, represents the intermediate regions, the region between earth and the heavens. Air, Yajurveda, Bhuvarloka, and Mahavishnu. It is white in color and rhythmic in quality. Rhythmic here referring to Sattva Guna. Makara, which is the third part, represents the heavens, the sun, Samaveda, Swarloka, and Maheshwara, Shiva. It is black in color and inert in quality, Tamas. So this is about the three syllables of Omkara. The techniques of Pranava meditation. The famous example that we find in the Mundaka Upanishad, Dhanurgrihitva Upanishad of Mahastra. We find the same thing in this Upanishad also. Meditation on Pranava is explained using the analogy of archery. The bow is considered to be the Pranava, Omkara. The arrow is considered to be the Jivatman, and the target is Brahman. So that is the example, the analogy that is used in the Upanishad. When executed carefully, the arrow merges with the target. What does it mean to execute carefully? Executing carefully is to perform dhyana on Pranava. The arrow, which is the Jivatman, when dhyana on Pranava is done properly, merges with the target, which is Brahman. So that is the way in which Pranava dhyana is explained. There are 2 techniques of Pranava dhyana that are mentioned in this Upanishad, and they are, the first one is to combine Pranava dhyana with pranayama. So the technique would be to inhale through Ida, which is the left nostril, perform Kumbhaka, which is retention, and meditate while performing Kumbhaka, meditate on Pranava, represented by Ishvara, in the middle of the body as a steady, motionless flame, the size of a thumb, Angushta Matram. It's a famous description which we find in multiple places, Angushta Matram Purushaha. A size of the thumb, then exhale through the Pingala. So basically, while performing Kumbhaka, the Upanishad says that one has to meditate on that being in the heart region as Omkara. And that is one form of pranava meditation. And out of the three kinds of parts of pranayama, inhalation, retention, and exhalation, Brahma is said to be Puraka, which is inhalation. Vishnu is said to be Kumbhaka or retention, and Rudra Shiva is said to be Rechaka or exhalation. Now, the second technique uses the analogy. Second technique of pranava meditation uses the technique, uses the analogy of Arani Mantana. Now, Arani Mantana is an ancient technique used to create fire out of wood, fire to be used in yajnas, yagas, etc. Now, what it involves is there are two pieces of wood that are used. One is called the Uttararani, which is the upper. Uttara means upper wood, and Adhararani, which is the lower Arani, a lower log of wood that is used. The Uttararani looks like a stump which is used in cricket. It's a log. It is a narrow longitudinal log which has one end sharpened, and this sharpened end is inserted into the Adhararani, which is a plate which is flat and has holes in it. Now, when the Uttararani is inserted into the Adhararani and then it is churned, the friction causes fire, and through this method, fire is created. So, practically, just imagine this scenario. And what the Upanishad says is, the mind is the Adhararani, the lower Arani, and the Pranava is the Uttararani, the log of wood that is inserted and churned. And the churning process itself is said to be the process of meditation. So through this process, just as fire is generated during the Arani Mantana, knowledge is generated when the pranava is inserted into the mind metaphorically and churned. When the mind meditates on the pranava, knowledge is generated. So this is the second analogy of explaining pranava dhyana. Those who realize the Hamsa, which is Hamsa, I've mentioned in one of my previous Upanishads why the term Hamsa is used, because Hamsa, which is a swan, represents discrimination. The Hamsa is said to be able to separate milk and water even if you keep it mixed in front of it. Even if you keep a bowl which has water and milk mixed together, it is said that the swan can just drink only the milk and leave out the water. So it represents the ability to discriminate that which is valuable from that which is invaluable, the real from the unreal, the truth from the untruth. So a swan represents, Hamsa represents discrimination, Viveka. And those who realize the Hamsa, which is the Brahman, who is resplendent like a million suns, becomes liberated. Now this attributing the quality of resplendence or brightness to Brahman is a theme which we find in a lot of Upanishads. It is described as Jyotisham Jyotihi in the Mundaka Upanishad, the light of all lights. We also find various other places, for example, in the same Mundaka Upanishad and in the Kathopanishad as well. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyito bhanti kutoyam agnihi. It means there in that sphere of Brahman, the sun does not shine, the moon does not shine, the lightning does not shine, the fire does not shine, nothing shines, because the Brahman is so resplendent in himself, so bright in himself, that all these other sources of brightness cannot illumine him. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Him shining, everything shines after him. Him alone is the brightness. He alone is the resplendence, which gives resplendence to everything else, which makes everything else shine. Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. By his light is everything else lit up here. Here the quality of brightness signifies the quality of consciousness, the ability to illuminate, So that is, it is not to be understood that Brahman is something which is physically bright. That is not what is meant here. Here, brightness or resplendence, this quality is used to signify the power of illumination. In the Bhagavad-Gita, during the Vishwarupa Darshana, in that Adhyaya, when Krishna takes up the form of the universal, the Vishwarupa, Sanjaya is reporting everything to Dhritarashtra. So when the Vishwarupa takes place, Sanjaya has to report what Arjuna sees to Dhritarashtra, and the way he does it is beautiful. Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhaved Yugapad Uttitha, which means if 1,000 suns, Sahasra Suryasya, if 1,000 suns were to rise up in the sky in the same time, Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhaved Yugapad Uttitha, Yadi Bhas Sadrushi Sa Syat, Bhasastasya Mahatmanaha. that brightness that you would see if 1,000 suns were in the sky at the same time, that brightness that you would experience could perhaps capture the brightness of the Mahatman, which Arjuna is seeing right now. The brightness, the resplendence of the Supreme Lord, Mahatmanaha, of the Supreme Lord. Or another interpretation is that even that cannot capture the brightness of the Supreme Lord in his Vishwarupa. So this is, the quality of being bright is something which is often associated with Brahman or the Atman, the pure consciousness, which we find it in multiple places, in multiple forms in the Upanishads. In addition to these, there are also other methods of dhyana mentioned in the Upanishad. There are other methods which I'm not going into because the Upanishad specifically focuses on Pranava dhyana. Sorry, not the Upanishad. The NET Yoga syllabus specifically focuses on Pranava dhyana alone. So I'm covering only that. Shadanga Yoga. So this Upanishad also follows the technique of the concept of Shadanga Yoga, which is yoga with 6 limbs, which basically just leaves out Yama and Niyama from the Ashtanga Yoga. So the 6 limbs are Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. The Upanishad mentions 4 asanas, Siddhasana, Padmasana, Bhadrasana, and Simhasana. Again, a very common theme which we find in various Upanishads. For example, the Yoga Tattva Upanishad mentions the same 4 asanas. The 10 chief nadis, which is the same list that we find in the Yoga Chudamani Upanishad. Please refer to our video on the Yoga Chudamani Upanishad to know what the 10 chief nadis are. And also the 10 pranas, the 10 mukhya pranas, prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana, and the 10 upa pranas, which are Naga, Kurma, Krikara, Devadatta, and Dhananjaya. These are also mentioned in the Upanishad. We find Ajapa Hamsa Vidya mentioned in the Upanishad. This is technically not part of the syllabus as such, but I found it to be an important topic, so I'm presenting it. It is a japa which happens naturally. The prana is said to go out with the sound ha and come in with the sound sa. So it is said that with each exhalation, the sound ha is chanted, and with each inhalation, the sound sa is chanted. The Upanishad says that. Therefore, with every breath, the jiva chants the mantra Hamsa. And this happens 21,600 times a day. Why 21,600? Because the normal duration taken for one cycle of exhalation and inhalation is called 1 prana, and 1 prana is equal to 4 seconds. So now if you do the math, in 24 hours, 21,600 pranas would be there. And therefore, with each prana, with each inhalation and exhalation, the jiva chants the Hamsa. Hamsa japa happens naturally. So it happens 21,600 times a day. This is also called the Ajapa Gayatri mantra. And we also find explanations and descriptions of various bandhas and mudras in the Upanishad. Now, the Upanishad talks about the 7 chakras in the body and talks about them in the along with the the petals associated with them. This is something you will find in the yogic system, that each chakra is said to have a certain number of petals. The Mooladhara is situated in the anus region and has 4 petals. Swadhisthana is situated in the genital region, has 6 petals. Manipura, navel region, 10 petals. Anahata is the heart region, has 12 petals. And the jiva is said to reside in the Anahata chakra, the heart region, till realization takes place. In the Hridaya Desha. It is again a famous idea which says the soul resides in the heart region. Vishuddhi, throat region, has 6 petals. Agnya chakra in the eyebrow center has 2 petals. Sahasrara, as the name suggests, has 1,000 petals, and it resides in the crown of the head, the Brahmarantra. So this is about the chakras and the petals associated with them. Atma Darsana through Nadanusandhana. This is the final topic to be covered in this Upanishad. The Upanishad prescribes meditation on Bijaksharas as follows. As I had mentioned, there are various Bijaksharas, and it mentions 5 Bijaksharas, associated pranas with them, and Mahabhutas, and the corresponding color associated with each of these aksharas. Ya represents prana, the Mahabhuta, Jala, and the color of the blue cloud. Ra represents Apana, Agni, and the color of the sun. La represents Dhyana, Prithvi, and the color of the Bandhuka flower, which is red in color. Va represents Udana, Vayu, and the color of the conch, the pure white. Ha represents Samana, Akasha, and the color of the crystal, the transparent glassy color. So this is a comparison we find in the Upanishad. Through the practice of Shadanga Yoga, the sadhaka will be able to hear the sound of the conch in the middle of the Veena Danda. Veena Danda here referring to the vertebral column, the I think Sushumna Nadi. When this sound reaches the heart region, the Anahata region, it resembles the sound of a peacock. And for those of you who haven't heard it, it is not a very pleasant sound. When the sound reaches the middle of the cranium, the Sahasrara chakra, the Atman shines like a sun in the sky between the eyebrows. So basically, it means that when the when Nadanusandhana, the sadhana is completed, when it reaches its apex, the peak, the final stage, Atma Darsana takes place. The Atman shines in between the eyebrows. So the Jiva beholds the Atman, realizes his own nature. He who realizes the Purusha, Brahman, this way, through the practice of Nadanusandhana, attains Kaivalya. So this is about Atma Darshana through Nadanusandhana. Again, there are also various other topics that the Upanishad deals with, but this video will be covering only these many because the NET syllabus focuses only on these. You can read the original Upanishad to get a broader understanding of the topics. This should be sufficient as far as I'm concerned for the NET exam. Thank you.